Welcome to the Retirement Planner Podcast, a podcast that brings clear guidance to help American families like you to navigate the journey from savings to spending in retirement. I'm your host, Don Chamberlin, a certified financial educator, and my mission for over 2 decades has been to educate and help Americans throughout our great country about their retirement planning goals. With each episode, we will tackle subjects such as Social Security, taxes, market protection, and everything else you need to know to retire with peace of mind. No financial jargon, just straightforward education and real-world wisdom to help you build the retirement you've worked so hard to achieve. Join me as we explore how to help you make your money work as hard as you have. I'm joined today by Tom Pon. Tom Ponce is actually a holistic planner with our firm. He does retirement planning for our clients, and he's actually one of our top educators as well. Tom teaches for the American Financial Education Alliance in local colleges and libraries, and also online as well. He's been in this business for 11 years, and maybe you want to kind of tell us a little bit of your background.
Sure.
And where you came from and why you wanted to be a part of the Chamberlin team.
Sure. So I've been in the financial services industry for about 11 years now. When I first started in the industry, I did a lot of things like Medicare, insurance planning, so life insurance, long-term care, annuities. I then started getting a lot deeper into tax planning, income planning. So I've kind of had this full holistic approach that I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's what Chamberlain does, and that really got me excited about working here. So I took the leap of faith three plus years ago, and it's been full throttle moving forward ever since.
Yeah, and Tom has really been one of our biggest stars that we've had in our group. He's really educated a lot of people, focused on that. Recently, we added him as one of our team leaders for what we call a diamond team, which is a group of 6 planners that are all working together for our clients. And he's one of our first team leads. So congratulations for that, Tom.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, because we get this question a lot from people. We get like, can I retire, or can I retire now, or when should I retire? How do you go about answering a question like that?
It's a great question. We get it pretty much every day in our practice, in all the classes we teach. It's the $1 million question. I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I think I'd be able to answer that for a lot of people. Unfortunately, it's going to depend. I think the short answer is really you have to have a plan.
We got a podcast, so we can go a long answer if you want.
Yeah, well, you know what? With that being said, it's having a plan. And a plan is not simple, right? When it comes to retirement, there's a lot of things involved. I mean, obviously, you want to figure out, when do you want to retire? We got to start with that. But we have to look at a lot of different pieces. We have to look at Social Security, right? It's not just as simple as taking it as early as possible or delaying it as late as possible. We have to look at the assets that you have. That's a big part of it, but also how those assets are taxed. So, some people have pre-tax assets, 401ks, IRAs. Some people have Roth, non-qualified. Healthcare is a big piece too. If you're going to retire before 65, how are you going to bridge the gap to get to Medicare? So, long story short, or should I say long story, because we're doing a podcast here, it's having a plan in place, just like anything. I mean, think about like building a house, right? You don't just throw a bunch of things at the wall and then all of a sudden the house is built. You have to build
the bricks to stack up by themselves.
It doesn't work that way.
They just won't do that.
Yeah, you got to have a blueprint. You got to have the foundation. You got to have all the pieces. It's the same with retirement. It's building a plan, making sure that you have that plan as you're going into retirement. And when you have that, it gives you that peace of mind knowing, hey, I can do this and I can do this comfortably. And now I'm excited to get to that retirement date and do what I've always been planning for.
When people come in and talk to me, especially after I've done an educational event, they ask the question like, how long can I expect to live? And so I say to them, like, how long are your relatives living? So a lot of times, Tom, what happens is when I've completed an educational event, people will come up to me and ask this question, when can I retire? A lot of it has to do with how old they think they're going to live to, right? And we can ask, and when I started doing this, like over 20 years ago, this particular type of retirement planning, that's what I used to ask people. How long are you going to live to? But now it's even more of a question because I'll ask them, how long have your relatives lived? And ultimately, they've got people that lived into their late 80s, many of them in their 90s. And I speak to people quite often now that have a living relative that's 100 years old. So the whole concept of longevity, and I think when I read articles in the financial press, there's a thing called longevity risk, right? So
Correct.
is that a big factor in what we're talking about here?
I think it's a huge factor. I think longevity risk, the risk of potentially running out of money in retirement because you are living to potentially your 90s, your hundreds. I think that's one of the biggest risks for people in retirement today.
Right.
And you see a lot of people worry about
Mhm.
it. So that begs the question, what do I do to prepare for that?
Mhm.
And I think, like we mentioned, having a plan is a good starting point, right? You got to make sure the plan has all those pieces. But that's a big one. And another big risk that's kind of tied to that is something called sequence of returns risk.
Okay.
So a lot of people aren't super familiar with sequence of returns risk, especially if they're not from our industry. But essentially, what that is it's the risk of losing money in your investments in those early years of retirement as you're drawing those down to live off of.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, hey, we've got this longevity risk. I'm going to live to potentially my 90s to my hundreds. And think if you first retire and the market has a dot-com bubble, early 2000s, just like when you started Chamberlin, or 2008, we lose 30, 40%. If you have that when you first retire and you're drawing off of that nest egg, that's what sequence of returns risk is. Now the chances of that money lasting the next 10, 20, 30 years becomes a lot less.
Right.
Now you start thinking, well, hey, do I have to go work part-time? Do I have to start spending less? That's what people get scared of, and that is what helps add to the cause. I mean, here at Chamberlain, I think it's very important to educate people, especially when we're first meeting with them, when they're clients. We want to make sure they're fully educated, understanding when we're building a plan, we're doing it for a specific reason.
Right. Right.
Sequence of returns risk, it is one of the biggest risks for people going into retirement that gives them that scared feeling of, hey, I'm going to run out of money.
Mhm.
So there's a bucket planning process that we use. It's a great philosophy, actually, why I first started working here. I'll never forget when I first interviewed, I was asked if I knew about the bucket planning process. And, in our industry, there's several different buckets and
Yeah.
versions. But they asked me, they said, why don't you take a little read at this book? And I did so after my first interview. And I came into that second interview after I'd read the book. And it just kind of opened my eyes because it's just such a great, in my mind, the most bulletproof process to use to help people retire comfortably, to make sure they don't worry about running out of money in retirement. So the bucket planning process, we'll probably go into that a little bit more here on the podcast, but that is the way to avoid sequence of returns
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that. It's kind of like a formula that we have that we've helped to develop that we can use with all of our clients, and it's just a great way. If anyone would like to take us up on it, we'll do a basic bucket plan for you to show you where your assets are in this bucket planning process. It's part of what we do to educate anybody that's out there that goes to any of our classes. So if you're on the podcast, you're getting an education here with this. We'd be more than happy to plug you in to do that. So Tom, what are some of the other big concerns that people have in retirement?
So there's obviously a handful, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables as you're going into retirement. I'd say a couple that I hear very often, and when you look at articles and statistics, polls, running out of money, it's one of the biggest ones. Healthcare expenditures,
That's up there,
expenses. People are always worried about that. Losing the ability to be as active and healthy, maybe spending more on healthcare. Another big one is taxes. And I can't speak for our government and what's going to happen in the future, but taxes are a big, big part of retirement that I don't
Sure,
think a lot
sure.
of people really fully understand until they dive deeper into the weeds, until we look at the plan. Another thing to mention about why I love working here at Chamberlain is because we do focus heavily on taxes. I mean, we have accountants in the office. You started our firm with an accountant on board, but we look at taxes not just from a year-to-year standpoint, but from a lifetime standpoint, because it's a huge difference that you can make on your financial future in retirement by planning properly tax-wise over the course of several decades. So those are a couple of them. Running out of money. I think healthcare expenditures. I think taxes is a big one. Obviously, there's several others.
The taxes are a big thing because when we plug people's numbers into a software program for retirement planning, and we use different tax models and tax strategies to help them in retirement, we're saving them hundreds of thousands of dollars over the remainder of their lifetime. It's really amazing what we can actually do with that tax part of what they're doing. Sometimes it's over $1 million. And a lot of times what that reflects into is at the end of their life, they have an extra $1 million, for example, to give to their children or their grandchildren. It can just be amazing.
It's crazy. I say a lot of times, especially for those who have a good amount of monies that they built up, taxes can be and likely will be the number one expense in retirement.
Yeah,
so
right.
if you can lower that ultimately, it will make a big difference.
Cutting your expenses. Maybe we can make it number 2 or 3 for them, right?
There we go. Yeah, that would be nice.
The reason I started the company was I was a broker. I started being a broker back in the mid 80s. And what I was doing was teaching people actually what mutual funds were. I did adult education classes at high schools, and people would come in and I'd tell them what a mutual fund was. We don't have that problem anymore because everybody's had mutual funds and IRAs and 401ks for so long.
Yep.
But that's what I was teaching. So I really believed in the market. People didn't know about it prior to that time. If you wanted to invest, most people invested in individual stocks, and it was much more risky. Now, the whole country could participate in being involved in investing and getting higher than potentially anyway. We know there's a lot of risk involved in mutual funds and stocks and things, but you could potentially get a higher return than what you're getting just in your savings account.
Sure.
And that's, as a kid, that's what I started with, a savings account, right? So when 2000 to 2002 happened, I was a broker. I loved the market. I was totally in it. And it went down. It went down 49% in 3 years. And I said, I've got to change things. So at the end of 2001, I decided to start this firm, and with the idea that I wanted to protect people's money. Something else that was happening at that time. I read a book. Many of you might remember Tom Brokaw. Tom Brokaw was the lead anchor for NBC Nightly News for many years. And he wrote a book called The Greatest Generation. So, and I love American history, particularly the Revolutionary War and World War II. So I've studied it, and it gave all those stories of bravery and saving democracy for the world that the Greatest Generation did. And then right about that time when I was reading that book, there was a series of articles in the Wall Street Journal about how these mutual funds that I was using were really, really good at helping people to grow their money, but they didn't know anything about taxes or estate planning or income planning when it came to retirement time. And I thought to myself, if no one's going to help these people, these people that saved the world from democracy, what are we doing in this country, right? So I said, I've got to do something about it. So I did almost like a 180 and went directly to starting to focus on helping the people of the Greatest Generation save their money in retirement so they didn't have this risk. And a lot of it was worry, Tom. You know, a lot of it was the fact that I don't want them to lose sleep at night or worry because things are going up and down. Because in their case, they got into the stock market unintentionally because they kind of had to go into an IRA, or they were incentivized to go into 401k by their employer. So those are the things that I was able to help them. So it ended up then evolving, and then my son came into the business, and he started to put a really good investment philosophy together again. And that's where we started to develop this whole idea of holistic planning. And we've been able to help a lot of those people in the Greatest Generation. And we're almost all the way through the baby boomer generation, helping them now. And we're on to Gen Xers. So that's why I said this whole concept of concern about running out of money in retirement transcends the generations, right?
It does.
So what do you think is behind that? What is the cause that causes those folks to really be that concerned? Like, is there something that changed that they don't have anymore that others had in the past, maybe?
Yeah. So, I mean, just to what you're pointing out, it's changed generationally for those people that are working now. You're starting to see most people nowadays are not retiring with a pension.
You also have to do it yourself too. If you didn't save and you don't know how much you're going to need
Yep.
by the time you retire, because
Yep.
you don't start when you're 30 years old and say, I'm going to retire at 60 or I'm going to retire at 70, or you don't know.
Correct.
So you don't know how much money you necessarily need to save.
Yep.
And by the time you get there, have you saved enough? Or maybe you wanted a nicer lifestyle when you were younger and you didn't like I didn't start saving for a long time.
Yep.
And that was because I had to put my kids through school, raise them, do all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And to be honest, most of the time that's what you see. I mean, most people that I sit down with, they, just like you said, they're raising the kids, they're, getting their career off to a great start, and they're not focusing as much on saving for retirement because they were used to previous generations not having to worry as much about that.
Correct.
But it's very relevant now. And it does scare a lot of people because the burden really is on their shoulders when they retire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's very important to take a holistic approach, be a retirement planning firm that can help with all areas of retirement because there's a lot of them.
I'm kind of curious a little bit of what do you see the people when you're sitting down with them and starting to do their retirement plan. I know you talk to them a lot about what their desires are for the retirement and what they want to do.
Mhm.
What do you see as like some of the main goals? Are they thinking a lot about passing a lot of money on to future generations? Are they thinking what are they kind of thinking about?
Great question. So a lot of times, and again, this isn't everybody, but what I'm seeing a lot is people want to spend and enjoy that money.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you've worked all those years. And a lot of times when I talk with people, their kids, their grandkids, they think they're going to be well off. So, hey, if there's something to pass on to them, that's great. But primarily, I want to focus on me, right? I'm the one retiring. I want to make sure
Well, that's the baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer, so I know that's what I want to do, right? I want to have a good time. I want to spoil my grandkids. I want to travel.
And to that point, I mean, think about like the old rule of thumb whenever you retired. I need 70 or so % of my pre-retirement income in retirement to feel comfortable and live comfortably in retirement. When we talk with people now, a lot of times 90, 100%, maybe even sometimes a little bit more.
Right. Because they're not cutting back as much as previous generations. When they retire, they're spending more than previous generations.
Yeah, I mean, they want to travel, they want to spoil the grandkids. Those at least first 5-10 years of retirement, most of the people I talk with say, Tom, I want to spend this money. I saved it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want 80% of what I was bringing in while I'm working. I want all of it at least.
Right.
So that's what we see a lot of times now.
Great. So how do you get them there? How do you get them to where they can actually do that?
It all comes back to building that plan, building a holistic plan. So holistic.
Do you find that you can do that most of the time, or they're just people you can't help?
I feel like most of the time we can always help somebody. Yeah. We have a great firm. There's a reason why I work here. The holistic approach is why I started working here. It's why I think our clients are coming to us. Yeah. It's what kind of brings us to the top, so to speak. But it's a great approach. You got to think about income. Social Security is a piece of that. You got to think about taxes, huge piece of retirement, right? That we talked about. You got to think about Medicare, healthcare planning, your estate, legal planning. Those are all areas in a holistic plan that you should incorporate together. Fortunately here, what we try to do is we bring those all together and it helps things out.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Tom.
Of course.
I've really enjoyed
I have too.
having you on the broadcast. And hopefully we'll have you back some other time. Thank you so much for watching the podcast today. Our mission is to bring an education-first approach to help countless families like you turn their retirement dreams into reality. Have specific questions about today's podcast? Do you want to learn more about our holistic planning approach? Click the button below to schedule a call with one of our financial educators. Subscribe to our podcast and share with others who could benefit from this episode. Check out our YouTube channel for more videos on this retirement planning subject. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for all your retirement planning needs. Remember, planning for retirement is a journey, not a sprint. It's about taking those critical steps today to secure your future. Until next time, keep planning, keep dreaming, and keep moving forward on the path to your confident and fulfilling retirement.